Welcome to your weekly episode of Reset42. The next minutes of this episode are like precious jewels we're sharing with you as we let you sit in on interviews with incredible guests who've been forced or chosen to reset the meaning of life. It all begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In life, there are days we get up and we fly, and nights that we rest and sleep, but sometimes we forget the value of being able to reset. We try to do too much of one and too little of the other. Join me each week as we learn the power of a reset life. Whether it's right now or just around life's corner, what you will discover on Reset42 is a powerful tool for your life.
Now here's your host, Father of the Year in 2009, according to the 4 judges who received an iPod for Christmas, it's Andrew Pitchford.
Welcome to Reset42, a podcast that's been 10 years in the making. I'm Andrew Pitchford, and shortly I'll introduce myself and take you for a quick tour around the inside of my life. Now don't worry, even after 50 years, it won't take long. Listen, I'm really excited to get this Reset42 podcast underway. Let me explain why. Can you believe this has been a project that's been bubbling away in my mind for more than 10 years? Probably a number of thoughts over that time, waking up in the middle of the night and thinking that I should do something. And independently, all these ideas were really going nowhere until about 12 months ago I decided I was going to write a book on how to reset your life. So in Easter of this year, I took some time off. I sat down and did a publishing course by Michael Hyatt called Get Published, and that really helped to focus my ideas. But as I started to think about who this book was for, I started to wonder, who should I write for? What do they want to learn? And then I started to realize that it's more than just my story that can be told. It's also going to be many stories of other people who have been through various challenges in life. So with that thinking, a podcast was born. The idea that we might be able to interview different people and find out about their life. Now, you're probably going to find out over the next 6 weeks that there's more reasons than just tragedy that mean that we need to reset our lives. We're going to be talking to people from common, everyday situations, whether it's to do with their careers, maybe it's to do with the relationships, or just that they ran out of steam, ran out of puff, ran out of energy, and didn't know how to kick things into gear again. That's what Reset42 is all about. And a little bit later in the podcast, I'll tell you a little bit more about the meaning behind the name. You know, for myself, there's been so many moments that had the potential to derail my life. We all remember those situations. Maybe it's in a relationship, time with family members, career decisions. We face so many of those. And the setbacks and the hard graft that comes with dealing with things like finance and health issues that just felt out of control. Well, thanks to incredible friends and family over the years, I'm still here. I don't look as though I'm a legend of strength, skill or tenacity. Sometimes I look in the mirror and think, wow, you really show that you're a survivor. But let me tell you, I've learned some hard lessons, and even now there's some that I know I'm still learning, stubbornly still learning. Now, I know this may not be the same for everyone, but for my journey, a key area I take joy in is my family, and I'm going to introduce you to them over the course of the Reset42 podcast. My wife Cheryl is a deep strength in my life and our marriage and family. We seem to be laughing more at each other as well as with each other than ever before, and to me that's a great sign. Don't think I'm Prince Charming though, because that job was already taken. Together we've now been married 28 years, have 4 adult children, and I look forward to introducing them in more depth as they get to tell their story in future episodes. Abby is married to David. They live in Auckland, New Zealand. Our 2 sons, Corey and Ethan, live at home with us, and my second daughter, Faith, also lives in Brisbane, close to her work. So how did this idea for a book on resetting your life come about? Let me tell you a little bit more. In part, it's because of my own life's journey of second chances. You know, I can see times where life circumstances meant a new road had to be chosen. Sometimes it was a fresh road, and on other occasions it was actually the old road that I drifted away from. I've also had a deep sense of empathy for friends and family when I could see they were hitting the wall. They were taking a detour, simply stuck on what to do next. Now, I've seen some of them give up, others get angry. There's been relationships, and there's been people that have just broken down through the stress of having to face life. Now, for some, I could be that friend and be alongside them. For others, it was their journey to walk. And I wish I could have given them some tools to help reset their situation. Let's come back in a moment and tell you more about Reset42. Thanks for joining us on this podcast adventure. We're certainly going to learn a lot together.
Reset42, a podcast of open hearts sharing real stories of life's stumbles, roadblocks and disasters, and walking into hope.
During one of these episodes, I'll go deeper on my own journey, but let me tell you about Reset42, the podcast. As we get together at your place each week, I'm planning to bring some special people into your life. For the most part, they'll be people you've never heard of. Some of the interviews we've finished so far include a farmer turned teacher, a business owner who sold his home to sail around the world, an incredible mum who left a domestic violence situation to raise her family of 8 children. And there's going to be a precious interview with my eldest daughter that is going to touch your heart. But I'd like to tell you about my motivation for Reset42, and it's actually you. Right now, as you're listening to this podcast that you've carved a few moments out of your day to listen to, you may not need a reason to reset. But if we're honest with each other right now, you once did, and you probably will again. As we listen to life's journeys of my guests, I know you'll be amazed and encouraged about the lives of people who could be living just across the road or the hallway in your apartment from you. These people aren't looking for fame, but they're willing to share a slice of their life in the hope it will also help you. You'll also have the opportunity with some of our guests to join a closed Facebook group where you can get questions answered not only from the community but from some of our guests who'll be participating. So if you look for Reset42 on Facebook, you'll find that we have a page that you can like, and you'll also find a group that you can ask to join. Now, over the first 6 weeks of Reset42, we're going to be having a look at 6 triggers that I've identified when I started to write this book, and the 6 triggers really help us to get a sense of why we are facing the reset. If you've been following us on Instagram or Facebook in the last 2 weeks, you'll have seen we started with these 6 topics, all starting with the letter S. The words that we've spoken about were stalled, shifted, shelved, stolen, stumped, and stupid. A little later in this episode, I'll talk briefly about these topics, and we'll cover each of them over the next 6 weeks before joining our interview guests. So let's have a talk about what I mean by a reset. In careers and business terminology, there's a lot of talk about being able to pivot. The idea is that you can be agile and adjust, and it doesn't necessarily mean you pick up where you left off. It's very much the entrepreneurial speak, but I don't think it's suited to life. In business startups, you can launch a new business with an MVP, and no, it's not the most valuable player. It's what they refer to as the minimum viable product. A smaller, quick-to-launch version of what you think the world needs. You build this light version, then you get it into the market, and then based on your customers or client feedback, you can pivot or change direction to where the customers really want to go. Well, in Reset42, we're talking more about the ability to reset our lives and continue to the original goal. That doesn't necessarily mean a destination, because your goal might be a purpose, such as teaching or writing, traveling or creating, that could happen in any situation, any location, and any circumstance. So what is a reset? In its simplest form, the answer is probably in your hand right now. Your phone. Since the first computerized devices came into our lives, the word reset has been designed to save sanity and hair pulling around the world. There are different variations of the reset, and the reboot is probably the most famous. I jest, but I'm convinced that IT help desk firms around the world have structured their question response to ask 3 questions to clarify, and then ask the best question of all. Have you tried rebooting the computer? This fix-all has saved businesses and family members advising grandparents over the phone for decades on computer fixes. You know, I jest, but it's true. And what are some of the benefits of a reset for a phone or a computer, and what can we learn in using the same thinking for ourselves? Let's come back and answer that question in a moment.
I hope you're getting some inspiration and ideas you can use. So much goodness, and better than a quad shot latte, 4 sugars and a dash of caramel. We'd love to have you subscribe to Reset42, and please, will you leave a heartfelt review on your favourite podcast platform?
So we're looking at the situation where you've got that phone that seems to be getting slower and slower and slower, and you might have just downloaded a new app and it is just stuffing up your phone. It's not working. So what do? Well, you get to try a few things. You turn the phone off, you turn it back on again, it still doesn't work. Maybe you had tried previously to stop the app and kill it and then start again, and that didn't work. And then when you talk to a friend or you talk to the Android or Apple help people, they say they want to try a reset. And in that process, what they do is they actually wipe all of the data that is temporary while keeping the data that's permanent. So they re-wipe your phone, reset your phone, and you get to start again. You get to load all the temporary stuff back on board that you needed, but you haven't lost the core. And isn't that brilliant, that if we can retain the essence of who we are, if we can retain all the things that are important and get rid of the clag and be able to have a fresh start with fresh speed, new energy, more space in our life, then isn't that the picture of a reset life? And I hope that over the course of the Reset42 episodes that you listen to, you're going to pick up tips that are going to help you to reset, to be able to clear some space, to be able to get some energy, to be able to get back to your core. So let's have a look at what's happened for me. I've faced my own journey. I've realized that I can't predict the when. I don't know what's around the corner, but I know that I will need to reset at some point. And that's often very counterintuitive to what we've been taught as we set out in life. You know, one side we may be told that life will always be a bunch of roses and chocolates, smooth roads and celebrity lifestyles, and we'll always be the hero. And it's not. On the other side, we're told to prepare for life's storms. The approach is to survive. The approach is to knuckle down, head down, push through, never give up, never say die. Very much the Winston Churchill approach. But both of these models are unrealistic. And I wish that somewhere in my early formative years, I'd learned to prepare for what I know now. I'd learned to prepare for a reset. Maybe earlier, maybe know it was an option. And this would enable me to make use of what I've learned and possibly come out the other side with a few less bruises, broken bones, and let's not mention the scars. Imagine the phone user for a moment who lives their life not knowing you can reset it, not knowing you can turn it off and on again, and it just gets slower and slower and grinds to a halt. Many people are living their life that way. So imagine if we can prepare people to get the reset in place, see it coming, action it before they need to, or be able to action it after one of life's hits, then that could be a good thing. As we look at the Reset42 podcast, really there are 3 groups of people that this podcast is designed for. All up, it includes all of us. So which of these 3 do you feel that you fall into? At some time in our lives, we may be in the most obvious category. Life trips us up. Now, it may be something dramatic, it may be something small. It may be something to do with our health, our career, our family, but somewhere along the line we're caught out, we're hurt, and we just don't know what to do next. That's the first category. It's almost like you've been ambushed and you really don't know what to do next, and that's where you need the reset. The second one isn't quite as obvious. It's for a group of people who are just kind of going through life by the motions, and they've been really dependable, they're methodical, they basically turn up every day to do what needs to be done. They're often foundationally very strong, but the things they started with many years ago, whether it was as a child, a teenager, a young adult, the dreams that they had, the things they imagined they could be, seem to have faded into the distance. And sometimes it's because we had to shift our priorities to take care of somebody else or some situation. And other times we never really looked after ourselves, and so we didn't have the energy to do what was required. And then as life went on, we kind of just settled. Now the third group of people is a little bit more unique again, and I'm going to say that it comes from the Forrest Gump school of life wisdom, because stupid is as stupid does.
Are you stupid or something? Mama says stupid is as stupid does.
You can certainly learn a lot from the movies. Now, with Forrest Gump, we were able to learn that wisdom doesn't have to come with a PhD, but certainly he was able to do an amazing lot. And there's a new movie coming out with Tom Hanks shortly that I'm looking forward to seeing. But over the course of Reset42, the podcast, we're going to be meeting some real people. We've given you a bit of a taste of what's coming up, and we'll make sure that on the Reset42 Facebook page you have an idea of what's around the corner, as well as being able to talk to some of our interview guests in our community Facebook group. But to start off, the idea of writing a book on resetting your life, the advice that I got from Michael Hyatt's Get Published course was that you should really write down a persona for the people that you're trying to write the book for. So I thought as a starting of this podcast, I'd introduce you to members of the Reset42 family. Now, if you start to hear little flutters of paper on the podcast, that's because I've got this journal, and it's what I'm writing down all of the different ideas for both the podcast and for this book. So we're starting off with the Persona 1 for Reset42. Persona is just a name that kind of looks at an ideal person that you might be able to talk to. So you almost make up a character and think what you would say to that character. Our first one is Aaron. Now, Aaron's 42. He has two sons who are 15 and 11. He's now single. He's divorced. He has been a trained salesman and an area manager. When he was dreaming, he wanted to grow up and be a community leader. He liked to get involved in politics. The things that he really loves are the arts and music, and he contributes to all sorts of political groups because he feels that they can have an effect on the community. And he loves getting involved in schools. But Aaron has stolen dreams, and we're going to be visiting Aaron's situation and finding out what was stolen from him and how he was able to reset his life. Our next persona is a 31-year-old lady by the name of Brooke. Brooke's single. She's been dating Corbin for 6 months. She's actually a lawyer. She's really been pursuing her career, absolutely loves it, and loves environmental law. She serves on community boards, and although she's busy, she just doesn't feel like she's getting towards her dreams. So with Brooke, we're going to look at what had shifted. Sometimes Brooke suffers from anxiety, but if you asked her about her dreams for the future, she wanted to start a sunflower farm. She dreamed of having a cafe and a tourist attraction out on the farm, raising a family and 2 daughters. And we'll ask ourselves, what is Brooke doing in terms of her career? What is she doing in terms of her dreams? And what are the things and the passions and the joys that she might be following? And then we've got Martin. Martin is 61. He's been a real estate manager for years, had his own business, married to Lisa for 38 years. Quite an incredible guy when you look at his career. But a long time ago, he had a dream. And that dream was put on the shelf. He did it for his family, and he basically parked it. So we're going to be looking at what happens when we park or shelve our dreams for somebody else. Now, often when we shelve something, there's a really good reason we put it up on the shelf. But there should be another good reason you take it down and kick it into gear again. Martin enjoys nature, he loves travelling, he loves walking and supporting children's camps, but we're going to find out what that dream was and how he can reset to pick things up where he left off. Next we've got Julian. Julian is incredible. She's 46, she's been married for 25 years, has 4 children, she's been a stay-at-home mum, she's studied writing. Her passions have always been motherhood and her children. She loves a bit of art and craft, but her dream was to become a dancer. She even thought about starting a dance school. So what could we do if she wanted to follow that through? Maybe she had been helping with kids at school, but because of how busy mums can be, they're incredibly energetic and active. But in the end, how much time is there for mum to do what mum wants to do? So for Julian, we're going to explore what happened when things stall. When we run out of energy, the fuel isn't in the tank, we didn't give enough to ourselves because we gave to other people. And then we're going to have a look at Robin. Robin's 37. She's newly married, she's the oldest of 3 kids, has been a store manager, leaning towards doing project and people leading type stuff, avid movie lover, drawn to the performing arts, loves to be inspired by things that are to do with faith and nature, wanted to write movies and plays and had some bubbling ideas of doing a novel. But Robin got stumped. At one point, when she was about to make a decision to do something about her dream, she couldn't come up with the right answer to make it happen. So we're going to have a look at what happens when we just don't know the answer. We are stumped by life, stumped by our dream, and hopefully we can find a reset solution for her. And then finally, as we come back to the Forrest Gump model, stupid is as stupid does, we're going to have a look at Lucas. Now, Lucas started off really well. He's now 34. He's a business owner. He and his wife have a little girl who's 3 years old. But because of situations in his life, even though he had dreams of raising his family, traveling to Canada and Alaska, also had an idea that he wanted to be more involved in environmental matters, supporting Greenpeace. He loves the outdoors, whether it's bushwalks or trail bike riding. But for Lucas, he did something stupid. We all do it, and the funny thing is, in every category of life, we've all got the capacity to do the stupid thing. But how do you reset after that? How do you rewind, reconnect, and move forward? And I hope that Reset42 is going to help all of us when we do the stupid thing.
I hope you're getting some inspiration and ideas you can use. So much goodness, and better than a quad shot latte, 4 sugars and a dash of caramel. We'd love to have you subscribe to Reset42, and please, will you leave a heartfelt review on your favourite podcast platform?
One of the things that we spoke about was that I would tell you, where did the idea of Reset42, the name, come from? Well, for those of you that are a little bit geeky, you're going to probably have picked up on it already. And for those of you that haven't, follow me on Facebook and you'll find out just how movie and geek mad I am. But coming back to the name Reset42. When we were exploring the idea, there was lots of different podcasts and names and blogs about reset something, reset that, but nothing that really was talking about the idea of resetting life. And so we were playing around with how do you reset life, and does reset life actually sound good as a title? And then it came back to an English sci-fi novel, and it's called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was written by Douglas Adams back in the 1970s. Now, an interesting thing as the hitchhikers explore the galaxy is that finally they confront a computer that has all the wisdom of the universe put into it with the idea that it can tell you what the meaning of life is. And at the end of many, many, many years of processing, the computer spits out that the meaning of life is 42. So 42 becomes a bit of a catchphrase that you'll see pop up in a lot of geek culture, and it seemed to fit beautifully that we want to reset the meaning of life. Sometimes we've lost our meaning and we need to bring it back to our core, so Reset42 was born. Look forward to telling you a little bit more about that later. Well, there's a lot that Reset42 is going to be covering as we move our way through these exercises, but let's have a quick overview of those 6 things just so we're really clear on some of the triggers that we're looking at and how they all come to be. So first of all, we had what happens when you're stumped. You had the dream, you had the momentum, the plan, and then an unsolvable problem arose and you were stumped. We're going to cover that. What happens when you're stalled? With the spread of focus of all of your energy, you've lost all of your momentum, and now your dream or your life has just gradually ground to a halt. We're going to find out how to re-inject some energy into that situation. And shelved. Out of frustration or weariness, you have lost sight of the first part of your dream and you've shelved it. Or maybe it was so intentional, you just said, I need to make a sacrifice that you thought was a mini time-bound sacrifice at the time, but right here and now, it's time to get it back on track. What about when things shifted? Whether through the environment you live in, the circumstances, or the factors around you, you had to shift your focus. But that was for a time, and you never truly brought it back into alignment. How do we reset in that situation? And of course, we talked briefly about things that are stolen. Sometimes an individual steals from us, sometimes a group or organization steals from us, and sometimes it feels like life sneaks into our life and steals something precious from us. We'll cover that. And of course, as we said, stupid is as stupid does. We'll come in and say, hey, even though everything was right, we made a decision that might have been selfish, it may have been a 50-50 call and we made the wrong one, and we'll look at what we can do when a stupid decision's made. Reset42. This is your time and our time to do a little bit of learning and prepare for the future. Well, I'm so excited that you joined me on this first episode of Reset 42. There's a lot of learning going on behind the scenes, I can tell you. I want to extend a big thank you out to Pat Flynn with his Power Up podcasting course that has been incredibly insightful to help prepare for this. But more importantly, I want to say thank you to my friends and family that have been supporting me and cheering on, especially to Cheryl, to Abby, to Corey, to Faith, Ethan. You guys have been amazing. Thank you for giving me the space and opportunity to do this, and we hope that you'll be turning up for episode 2 when we start to really get into the nitty-gritty of Reset 42. So how can you share about Reset 42 to your friends, particularly when there's an episode that you think is going to be valuable to somebody going through something right now, but maybe the real goal is to prepare all of us for the future and you think somebody could benefit with that kind of thinking? Then please visit us at andrewpitchford.com/reset42. You'll find more details about the podcast there. Of course, you can find us on Instagram at Embrace the Reset and Facebook. Look us up, Reset42. You should find both the page and the community group to join. I'm looking forward to spending more time with you. I'm Andrew Pitchford, and this has been Reset 42.
None of us know when life may need a reset, but I hope this episode is one you can keep where you need it or share with someone who does. Join us for our next Reset 42 episode by subscribing wherever your podcast love lives. Visit us online to share the episode. Show notes can be found under the rock where we hide our house key at www.andrewpitchford.com/reset42.